together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Be seated, please. Call to order the sitting of this Honourable Senate for Friday, January 23, 2026. And I extend a warm welcome to all members of the Senate on both sides and the administrative staff of the Senate and our visitors who are here. I extend a warm welcome to you. This is the first sitting of the Senate since the beginning of this new year in 2026. And I trust and hope that all would have had a wonderful Christmas. In spite of Melissa, right across Jamaica, I saw where the government, and particularly the UDC, the government of Jamaica, would have brought joy to many of the areas that were impacted by Melissa, and particularly the parishes of St. Elizabeth, Honourable, that were impacted severely, with the UDC doing a lot of social activities, fireworks not seen before in some of those parishes. So what Kingston would have been accustomed to through the UDC, that was also taken across Jamaica. And I think it had really brought joy to a lot of persons based on the comments that I saw. So we are here in 2026, and we will ensure that the legislative agenda is carried through as efficiently and effectively as possible. Statement by, Minister.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President. If I might be allowed to add my words of welcome once more to colleagues returning from the Christmas recess, and of course to all the supporting teams present, our Hansard teams, all the members of the parliamentary staff, Mr. Marshall, Deputy Clerk, acting and supporting teams, and our orderlies, to thank everyone for their continued support in advance for the remainder of this legislative year, and also to express the hope that not only did you get a good and regenerative rest over the Christmas, I myself charged myself with responsibility to sleep as much as humanly possible. Didn't achieve my full goals, but it was a taxing year for many of us, and I do hope that you all managed to take the rest required and to spend time with family, so that we return this morning re-energized and ready to reaffirm our commitment to pursuing the constitutional duties that we have as members of this honorable chamber. Mr. President, I want to also wish everyone peaceful, prosperous, healthy, and productive year ahead, and to look forward to a collaborative energy and spirit to be brought to the work ahead of us. That is, of course, always with the people of Jamaica in our hearts and at the forefront of our minds. I wish to also ask, Mr. President, just for your leave this morning, to allow me to be able to recommit bills taken from the House and the notices of motion given orally when I return, because I do need to ask your indulgence to exit. I'm going to do the impossible and be in two places at one time this morning. I leave, of course, for the continued performance of the House, the first statement by Minister Hill, and the second statement by Minister Maurice Dixon, whereafter, of course, we will proceed with the act to amend the JAMPRO bill and the other item for the under the trade portfolio, the industry and investment portfolio, whereafter we will, of course, take the matters which I just referenced for recommittal. So again, thank everyone in advance for their cooperation, wishing everyone not only a good morning, welcoming our guests, who I'm sure will be welcomed more formally shortly, and hoping for a good and productive, collaborative first day back in this Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambert Brown.
To speak from a chair other than mine.
Permission.
Yeah. I'm going to surprise you, Minister. I'm going to echo all that you have said. So we want to start the new year with consensus and unanimity. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that for the rest of the year. I want to start by saying I have nothing more to add to what you have said. Senator Scott Motley would normally be here. He's also engaging in an activity of newness, as I believe is the president, in that some people are being called to the bar today, and the president is involved, and so is Senator Scott Motley. And that's the only reason why, Senator Gale, I'm in this chair. One day, Bush, but this is going to be less than a day. It will be less than a day. So we echo what the minister said, and we thank you. And I hope, Minister, if I can just disagree with you, that we will meet more often so that our colleagues don't feel, who are new, don't feel, why is the Senate not meeting? But I know there's a packed legislative agenda, and we look forward to working in the best interest of the people of Jamaica. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator Brown. And as you have said, you have also indicated the reason for the absence of the substantive president, as well as I received an apology from Senator Rosemary Bennett Cooper, who is traveling on government business. All right, so that accounts for her absence this morning. No, I thought he was going to be here, based on what I was told. All right, we have several persons who are present with us this morning. In fact, from being here in 2016, I've not seen a list so long of persons who are present, but I just wish to extend a warm welcome to all our visitors. And when I look at the list I have before me, and having regard to what was expressed by the leader of government business, indicating that there will be a statement from the minister with responsibility for education, I can understand why this list is as it is. And the fact that persons would have taken time out of obviously other things that they could have been doing, I'm going to go through the list to recognize the persons who are present. So I ask for your indulgence. Today we have with us Dr. Kassan Troop, Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Education, Ms. Terrian Thomas Gale, Chief Education Officer, Mrs. Latoya Harris Gartney, Executive Director, National Education Trust, Mr. Kerry Brown, Director, Technical Services Unit, Mrs. Vivian Johnson, the Deputy Chief Education Officer, Dr. Caroline Deslandes, Executive Director, Early Childhood Commission, and other persons from the Ministry, Communications Manager, and the photographer. We have to recognize those are the persons that get out the information. Other stakeholders, and they are seated in the gallery. Mr. Mohammed, Mohoidin, I hope I got that correct. Deputy Representative from UNICEF Jamaica. Ms. Alison Chisholm, Emergency Coordinator, UNICEF Jamaica. Mrs. Tamar Mackenzie, President, Jamaica Independent Schools Association. Mr. Stuart Jacobs, the President, National Parent Teacher Association of Jamaica. Mrs. Mitzi Harris Dillon, immediate past President of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica, as well as from that organization, Mrs. Ava Bigney Edmond, Vice President, Finance and Administration. Mr. Courtney Winter, President of the Jamaica Association of Chairmen for Secondary Institutions. Mr. Rodine Richardson, the Chair of the National Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica. Ms. Karen Zaka, Projects Director, Sandals Foundation. Ms. Heidi Clark, Executive Director, Sandals Foundation. Mrs. Fiona Porter Loft, Chief Editor from Cheetah Books and Toys, as well as from the World Food Program, Dana Sachetti, and Morgan Kelly and Christina Williams, who are from the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica. So I ask the Senate to recognize their presence. Happy to have you here, and we trust that your stay here will be one that is enjoyable to you all. Thank you for being here. Statements by ministers. Senator, Minister of Industry and Investment and Commerce, Minister Hill.
Mr. President, it's good to be back in the Senate. Happy New Year to all my colleagues. And we've had a very eventful last part of the year, part of which is why I'm going to make a statement this morning. Mr. President, on January 16, 2026, our ministry, Jamaica's business ministry, hosted the official launch for the reopening of the business vendor shops at the border. It is at the border of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, and it is called Border. It was an important moment, bringing vendors back into their space and restoring activity at a key point of commerce. The original 37 shops, Mr. President, were all almost literally completely torn down. A couple pieces of concrete were left. We tore down those, fixed back, reinstalled the 37 shops, added another 14 to make it 51. So instead of 37 that were there, we created 51. A uniform, you'll actually really like the promenade it has turned out to be. So when what we did was to make sure we not only return the shops, Mr. President and colleagues, but we built a kitchen for 11 stoves that they can cook their stuff on. They had some little make-to arrangements before that acted as kitchen. We now built a kitchen. We're going to mesh it, make sure the air goes through, tall ceiling, and they can then do their cooking in a specified area. We're also building a gazebo where if you go there to buy whatever they sell, and that's from fish and lobster, shrimp, Corrigoat, and other stuff across the road where it's private business. People have now decided that the shops look so good, they're adding their businesses there. You'll hear a little bit about that later. But we also, we are building a gazebo so that if you stop there and you want a place to eat, you go and eat there. Generally, many people who after eating say, oh, I should take some of this home for the people who are at home. But you don't do that if you buy the food, take it in the car, off you go, and then there's no buying afterwards. So we're looking that that kind of arrangement can increase the business. A new generator was provided to a vendor who has a business across the street, not in the same promenade as the shops, but across the street, which is private property. The shops are, of course, on government property. A private entrepreneur has upgraded the pay and use bathroom facilities across the street because he's so pleased with what has happened at the vendor shops. He had this place there that people used to pay $100 to use. We said to him, look, you're going to have to improve this. And I set him up with JBDC. He didn't wait for JBDC. Once we got to about 25 of the new shops, Mr. President, he decided that business is good for him. He expanded, upgraded his facilities, and of course, his business is thriving. But other people who he rented the place to, one of the ladies there didn't have a generator. We gave her a generator because we give generators as well, as I'll mention in a little while. The roof of the vendors' shops are reinforced with hurricane straps. Sanitation stations for hands and pot washing have been installed. Concrete pavements have been laid in which the shops have been installed in the concrete to strengthen the stalls. When you went there, you could shake the stuff. Now we put them in the concrete, they're firm, and we put hurricane straps to hold the roof on. And of course, the wind will go through the strap. They should be strong unless, of course, you have another really major climatic event. A revetment border made of stones will be built in a short time to shield the shops and general area from rough seas. Because the sea is right there, we make sure we put a revetment wall. That's going up. Contractors will be putting it in so that it's a place where you will have a measure of safety from the seawater. Mr. President, I'm pleased to confirm again, we've announced before that Sean Paul and his team were at the border region around the same time we were there. When we got there, Sean had already given some zinc and board to people who operate at border. When we got there, though, and outlined what we're going to do, in that we're going to rebuild all the shops and add some more, they said to us, can we take home the material that Sean Paul given us? Said, we have no, right now, and this is early days, right after the hurricane, we have tarpaulin, the wind blow it up, we're going to take this zinc at home, use the board to fix. And we say, yeah, go ahead and do it because we're going to give you the new shop. So Sean helped a great deal in that effort, and especially in the homes of the vendors. Honourable Andrew Holness delivered the keynote address at the launch ceremony on the 16th. I shared remarks, and we also heard from the Honourable Floyd Green, who is the Member of Parliament for that southwest area of St. Elizabeth, and of course is also the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. And it was a very good time indeed. Miss Samara South of Jerry and Nephew and Miss Monica Baker, who is one of the vendors there, they spoke on behalf of the shop owners. Jerry and Nephew, Mr. President, our leading partner for the renovation, carried out the rebranding and beautification of the vendor shops, ensuring that these businesses function, and they spent millions of dollars to put up, to make sure the signs are done well. You know, I have a video. Here is my, are we ready to run the video? I don't get in here. Is it ready to roll? I'd just like to take a break here and show you where we're coming from and where we are. If the video, I think it has been loaded, but I'm sure it will come in time. Are we going to have a dance or not? It will come. It will come. So Jerry and Nephew spent quite a few $1 million to put up the branding. That's part of it. Spirited moment that your granny used on your mole. Every shop owner, Mr. President, received buckets thanks to the Tourism Enhancement Fund, who supplied 55 buckets for food preparation and cleaning. At the reopening, the Prime Minister also unveiled 2 new signs installed at both the St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland end. And here we are. Video can roll. All right, building forward, stronger. Mr. President. So we will, we also have other videos of the opening, but we'll see at another time. I didn't hear that, funny. Is there something I must bring for you next time? Mr. President, we have done all this work and provision to help about 70 vendors. Remember now, we've done this in a period of 9 to 10 weeks, right after the hurricane. Thank you very much. It's not just 70 vendors, Mr. President. There are 26 fishermen, at least, for a total of between 350 to 400 family members in the group of Jamaicans at border. One of our main objections was to burnish the dignity of these hard-working Jamaicans by putting up these vendor shops for them so they can be proud of what they do. And the truth is, Mr. President, they are very proud and very thankful to the government for it. I want to also acknowledge Mr. Robert Morgan, who provided support for the road improvement. Because of the hurricane, a whole like a ravine was dug out across the road. And I said, look, can you help us to get this done near the end? And he did. He got somebody down there. Didn't have the asphalt for the day of the opening, but it was so well pressed and rolled that it proved to be a real assistance to us, and that traffic could move more carefully. We're going to have to, there are lots of big trucks that pass there. In a short while, we're asking the NWA through Minister Morgan to put in some speed impediment. Not, you can't put sleeping policemen on a main road, but you can use those material that they use on the highways, like metal stuff. When you run over it, it sort of tells you that you should slow down. And we're getting those to put there because it's a lot of people who stand and operate around that border region. The minister worked with the Ministry of Health to facilitate the recertification of people who lost their food handlers' permits due to the passage of Hurricane Melissa, in addition to certifying those who do not currently have those permits. So we want to make sure, I've met the Ministry of Health people there, and they're always kind of going there regularly to do it. So that's what we've done with border in a short period of time. But that's not the only thing we're doing. As you know, Mr. President, I have been around the 7 parishes, the ones that are most affected by the hurricane, at the mandate of the Prime Minister, who said, okay, Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, you go out there, you get businesses back up. We have people looking after houses, Mr. Charles and his group. We have people looking after agriculture, Minister Green, people looking after health and so on. But we must get businesses back up because that's how the communities work. And you've seen me out there in St. James, Mr. President, and in the process, the ministry also put in we bought 40 generators. And since we've given them out, Mr. President, we've had about 6 or 7 returned to us because the agreement is that, and I want to make this very clear for the record, Prime Minister in Cabinet was very, very clear. He said, look, Minister Hill, you cannot use ODPEM generators or anything that ODPEM has. What ODPEM has is for the Jamaican people to be handled by the Jamaican government. We cannot give what the gifts that have been given by whoever our friends are who have been given, local and foreign, and give it to private businesses. These are private businesses that are in there to make money. So what we had to do in the ministry is go through the procurement process, buy the generators from local suppliers under a procurement arrangement, and then we have an agreement with them that they sign, and we give that each one a generator, and the agreement is a couple of days after the JPS brings back the power, we go and take back the generator, give it to somebody else who needs it. So that has been a rolling arrangement, and it has worked quite well, and we've helped many communities. The ministry, through the Business Restoration Working Group, will continue to give the generators and loan. That program will continue, and key businesses in the 7 parishes will get help. We're looking, and Senator Keith Duncan, has been working very closely with the ministry. Minister Marks was on that committee, but she is so very busy with speed and doing a lot of things. So Senator Duncan has been really working with the permanent secretary of the ministry and other technical people in the ministry to put out a voucher that will be giving effectively grants to people in business. We're not giving grants to houses. We do business. So, but we have to make sure we get it right. Luckily, we don't have to recreate the wheel because some of what was used in the COVID program, Senator Duncan and lots of people who work with him have been making the adjustments to make this work because we have to have an audit trail. This is taxpayers' money. We have to make sure if it's given as a grant, it's somebody who deserves it, and like we did with the generator. As I was saying, Mr. President, that we will make sure that it's done right. And he is going to be very, very proud of those fishermen that Minister Floyd Green give the grants $250 a million, some of them $5 million, to make sure that our fisher folk get back in place. Because we can't have border or anywhere else we're working and the hotels working unless we have fishing going. But we're very pleased to know that what we do in this administration, we make sure it's accountable and it's transparent. Mr. President, I'm very pleased that the Prime Minister has ordered this and the contractors, and Mr. President, it's not easy. Our system is not built necessarily to work in a crisis, but we had to make it work. And I want to say thanks to the Permanent Secretary, Jamaica Business Development Corporation, Dr. Riley from the HRSA, Ms. Shelley Leon from the company's office, JAMPRO, all my 20 agencies. We had 221 volunteers from these 20 agencies to go out and do the work on the street. So thanks to all of them, and I'm very happy for the way the people at border are happy. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hill.
Mr. President.
Senator Keisha Anderson.
Yes, that's me, Mr. President. I beg permission to speak from a seat
Yeah,
other than mine.
you have that permission, ma'am.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Minister Hill, it is today 7 weeks since the 5th of December. At that point, we had dialogue and video on board, and don't get me wrong, I am very happy for the 70 vendors, 26 fishermen and the families that benefited from what has been done in border. I guess my disappointment is that border seems to be a very good case study of what can be done, but I wonder about the many other areas like that in the communities that were hard hit. Okay, and I really wonder if they are feeling that their dignity has been restored in this time period. And if I look wider, I think of the MSMEs as a whole across the communities that were hard hit. As I had said back in December, that the MSMEs, the small businesses or hairdressers or shopkeepers are the lifeline of any community, and if they die, then the community dies. So as we walk around and assess, and your team assesses, I have a couple of things that I wonder. I wonder about the assessment of the entire business, because their life won't return to being how it was pre-hurricane immediately. So I wonder who is actually helping these people to figure out if they have to have any changes to their business plans and what they should be doing and focusing on. I wonder about the access to funds that they may need. I had made a plea to look at or to work with the financial sector around moratoriums, because we do know that default rates at times like these tend to increase, and I expect it will happen if some of these persons used personal funding to borrow for their business. And I want to call again, I thank the minister and his team for the waiver that was given, or the reduction in fees, but I really think that we can do better by waiving the fees, the vending fees, the licensing fees, the fees for the letters of good standing for a period of up to 1 year. It was done. Great, great. I'm glad to hear that, Minister. So when you next return, Minister, I look forward to hearing about the impact of the DBJ funding. I look forward to hearing what your partners in the MSME Alliance or the Small Business Association feel about the recovery, and to getting some more statistics so we can have a true picture of how our MSMEs in the affected areas are actually coping post-Melissa. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Lambert Brown.
That's fine. I have my spoiler. Get ready for that. Minister, in your statement, and I think you must be aware that I was disappointed that the statement was so short, but then you filled it out. In the statement on page 2, I didn't trigger you. I'm used to you making a lengthy statement. But let's get to the question. You said that a revetment border of a stone facility will be made to protect the shops and the general areas from the rough sea. And I'm asking you if there's a timeline for this to be completed. And that question is against the background of in 2007 or thereabout, Minister Tufton, then Minister of Agriculture, and MP, that's what I'm asking you, an MP went to the area and promised the vendors at border, and I'm happy that they're getting all of these benefits. I'm happy that they're being restored, because I'm a regular purchaser. Even when I don't go down there, I ask people to buy things from them for me, right? So I really am happy for the restoration. But I want to know, given the previous promise of uniform, etc., an improvement, when this promise about the protection from the seas will be implemented, because I'm into implementation, not just mere promises. A note on page 2, well, this is from page 2, that was page 1, that you said the Prime Minister was there, Minister Fly Green. But part of the reason why it's named border is that it borders southwest St. Elizabeth and eastern Westmoreland. And in the national recovery, it's important that we show a bipartisan approach, a national rather than a my administration approach. And so I want to ask, was the Member of Parliament for Eastern Westmoreland and the spokesperson for the opposition on agriculture, Dr. Dayton Campbell, invited to this function? Because one would believe that, given that the international community is looking to see whether we're treating this as a national thing and a bipartisan thing, and permit me, Mr. President, to just mention, I see some race driver in the Philippines supporting Jamaica on his car and so forth. So we have goodwill. And it's against that background of the goodwill being spoiled by partisan approach that I'm asking the question whether Dr. Dayton Campbell, the MP for the same area of border, was invited. And then you end with another promise. A voucher grant program is being finalized to help restore business with larger rehabilitation needs. I think what people want to hear, Minister, is when these will be completed. Not that they're going to be done, because we're tired of the promises. And I say this because I believe it's urgent. Senator Duncan will agree with me that the Chamber of Commerce recent business confidence survey wasn't the result we wanted. It was negative relative to the previous quarter. And so we need to provide the confidence to the Jamaican people by not just making general and vague promises, but to indicate timelines so people can hold us together. And I want to commend you if what you said is true about transparency and auditing and accountability, because the truth be told, you just accused me of being wicked, but the reports of the Auditor General is saying otherwise about your government. May it please you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Hill, Minister Hill, you want to respond or you want to take the other questions? Okay, go ahead. Respond for me, please.
Welcome, Mr. President, and good morning. Good to see you again. Mr. President, I'm going to answer the questions in the reverse order that they were given. The voucher. I mentioned the voucher, and if you notice when I came the first time, Senator, that I have delivered. I made sure I named the names who work with me. Keith and I don't work. Forgive me, Senator. Keith and Aubyn don't waste no time. So ask him, we sit down there late. The reason why it hasn't come yet, because of the last thing you said. No matter how good we do the things, you wait until the Auditor General make a comment. And the Auditor General may not even make a comment and say something is wrong, like may have happened in RADA. No corruption, but something didn't go perfectly and it becomes a big issue. So you know what? We're almost there, but we're going to have that running arrangement. It's going to be digital. For the most part, the payments will be, so there'll be an audit trail for those who understand what that means in accounting, that you can follow it anywhere you go. Because if we do it well, Mr. President, we get the money out there, you hear how we corrupt and we never do the right thing and we give away the money and we give it to our friends. None of that. It's going to be done. We expect it. I had a meeting again with the ministry yesterday. It will be a short time. There are some things we have to do in the payment delivery, not so much from the ministry, but we have to get the payment delivery right so that the right people get the money at the right amount. No, because I'm not telling you the date when. When we fix that out, the money will be out there. Yeah, Mr. President, the second question related to Eastern Westmoreland, and I'm so glad that he walked into that area, because I made sure myself that the invitation was sent to MP and opposition spokesman in agriculture for the Eastern Westmoreland, Dr. Damien, not Damien, the same one, Dr. Campbell. It was sent. It so happened that clearly had something else to do. No, it reached. No. I checked. So, because I know somebody like you would ask me. So, I want to tell you, Senator Brown, that the first constituency we went to after the hurricane was South St. James. MP Nikisha, your spokesperson, Burchell, and she actually was very gracious. We went there. We delivered a generator in the night, must be about 8 o'clock, to a restaurant. And she was there. We delivered one of our bigger generators to the restaurant. And so off we go. So no. We're not, in case you aren't aware, the election is over. This is about Jamaica, Inc. We're running Jamaica.
Thank you very much, Minister.
The next question. The next question was about the revetment, Mr. President. Revetment, instead of getting concrete,
about what?
Revetment is what that border you put, like out that palisades, those big stones there, you call it a revetment to keep out the sea.
I know what a revetment is, and I just never heard you.
Oh, okay. Glad, Mr. President. Thank you. So. We have the most learned president you could ever have. So, there you go. So, Mr. President, the revetment, he asked about the time. I can answer it this way. I can confirm that the scope for the work was approved by the QS to the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. I'm pretty sure that scope has gone to the contractor, and the work, if it didn't start today, will start next week, and we expect that in a short period of time. I expect that it will start next week because the scope has been approved. So, but also it's more than that. We also ask, we don't do the work unless the scope is approved by the QS, as you know. As you know. So the wastewater, we're talking with TEF, because you can't have the stalls, the vendor shops are on the seashore, which is the government's land. We don't want the wastewater to go into the sea, so we're making sure that we work with TEF to get an arrangement that the water is transported across the street onto the other side of the land to protect the seacoast, because we expect that although we've had to clear tons, truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of rubbish that was torn down by the storm, we know that we expect that the morass will grow back to protect the sea area. Financial institutions, Senator. You asked me about moratorium. Yes, financial institutions, Exim Bank, for instance, I can tell you that last week, I just spoke to Dr. Lowe 2 days ago. Last week, I know that he, on lend to Exim Bank, $250 million for clients. Many of them, even before that, even the last time I came, first thing that happened, as you know, as a banker, I called in the Exim Bank and say, make sure you give moratoria to those lenders, because they're all going to need it for the most part, because the borrowers from Exim Bank tend to be small and medium-sized companies, a few big ones, but it's really people who need the help. The other non-government financial institutions clearly have had to do the same thing. I know that that's happening, and that is working. Is it perfect? No. We'll have to continue to see how much more we can give, and I know the DBJ is working out their process. And the last one is, how did we do the assessment? The first meeting I called, I was in Korea when Melissa hit. I came back a day or so after. First meeting I called was with 100 of Jamaica's biggest distributors in food, pharmaceutical, building materials. We called them in. And I did that, Mr. President, because it was our view, certainly my view, that that's the best place you can get information from. They know their customers. They know who are reliable, who pay on time. They know who serve the broadest number of people in the communities. So the first assessment was with the people who actually deal with money. Distributors not telling you somebody good. And they're not good because they can't get paid. So we worked with them. But we have the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. Many of those people are clients of the JBDC. We have information from the Exim Bank. We have information from the Company's Office of Jamaica. And so it is that combination of data that we were able to use to make the assessments. But above all that, I insisted that every generator, any money we give out, we must attend and see that the place operates. You as a banker, the worst thing that can ever happen to you is that you give a loan, the loan doesn't go well. When the examiners go in, they say, but there is no record on file of the bank of visiting the place of business. How did the money get disbursed? Okay, so we make sure that our people themselves, those 221 volunteers, are part of the people who make that final assessment for the disbursement. Mr. President, those are the answers, if it pleases you.
Thank you very much. Minister, just before you get to Minister Morris Dixon, I just ask the Senate to acknowledge. You can stand for me, please. I had the privilege of calling these young lawyers to the bar this morning. I consider it a privilege. It's a great day of hope and pride for themselves and their families, many of whom are sitting in the gallery. So we welcome them to the legal profession, and I use the President's privilege to invite them to the chamber. So thank you for acknowledging them. Minister Morris Dixon.
Mr. President, colleagues, leaders from the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, in particular PS, Dr. Kassan Troop, and our Chief Education Officer, Terry Ann Thomas Gale. Also our other representatives from the ministry who are here. I acknowledge all of you. And Chairman, I know we had gone through a list, but I just wanted to again thank some of our key partners who are here. Deputy Representative for UNICEF, Mr. Mohammed Moayuddin, Mr. Dana Sachetti, Head of WFP Jamaica Office, Stuart Jacobs, President of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica and the team there, Mr. Courtney Winter, President of the Jamaica Association of Chairmen of Secondary Institutions, Mrs. Tamar McKenzie, President of the Jamaica Independent Schools Association and her team, representatives from the Sandals Foundation, Mrs. Heidi Clark and Mrs. Karen Zaka, Mrs. Fiona Porter Loft, Chief Editor for Cheetah Publications, our members of the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica who are here, Morgan Kelly, and also Christina Williams who are here. Mr. President, I also had invited the President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, but he was not able to attend today. So I tried to bring as many of our stakeholders here this morning. Mr. President, on Tuesday, October 28, Jamaica endured one of the most devastating natural disasters in our modern history. Our education sector, especially in Western Jamaica, was hard hit. In fact, 447 schools in Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Elizabeth, and Manchester were severely impacted. Approximately 8,000 teachers and over 152,000 students faced unprecedented operational disruption. There was therefore, quite understandably, Mr. President, widespread anxiety across the system. But Mr. President, thanks to the strong leadership in our education sector from our teachers and administrators at the school level, to our teams in the region, to our technocrats in the central ministry, we all pulled off a historic turnaround. And that's worthy of clapping. Our stakeholders responded with urgency, with creativity, and with a sterling commitment to the golden principle that education must continue despite any challenges that we may face. No matter the adverse circumstances, education must continue. When schools stop, learning losses accelerate. Child nutrition and welfare support can be disrupted. The ability of parents to work is affected. For many of our most vulnerable children, learning is their only opportunity to realize their full potential. That is why the recovery of the education system was treated as a national priority by this administration from day one. And that focus, Mr. President, has delivered tangible results. Mr. President and colleagues, I'm pleased to report that as of January 14, 2026, all schools resumed teaching and learning. And Mr. President, I'll say it again for clarity. Within 90 days of the most devastating weather event in recent memory, a 1-in-100-year storm, all schools resumed operations and all schools resumed learning and teaching. The team at the ministry has been deploying resources to the schools who need it most. Working with our partners at UNICEF, 92 heavy-duty classroom-sized tents were donated to schools in the West. UNICEF will also be distributing around 300 learning kits in short order. And if you look outside, and I ask my colleagues on the other side, if you could please look outside, you'll see some of what's happening in our schools. Outside, we have an example of a school in a box. And so some of our schools have already been able to utilize this. So if a school is damaged, that school in a box can be used anywhere. It can be in a tent, it can be under a tree. A teacher can deploy that. It has all of the learning resources that would be needed. It has crayons, it has notebooks that children can use, and other material inside of it. And I have lots of examples, Mr. President. And when you look outside, you'll see it. You'll have everything you need to try to do class wherever class can take place. And we thank UNICEF for that. And I ask you to look outside at that huge learning school in a box is what it's called, that the UNICEF has been working with us to deploy across the system. The World Food Program is also here, and my namesake Dana has also been a significant partner to the education sector as we navigate Melissa's aftermath. They have been providing meal support to families and young children. Recently, they have extended mobile storage units to our damaged institutions to remove another barrier to their normal operations. And as I speak, the World Food Program has a technical team on the ground engaging with vulnerable communities and schools to identify priority institutions and assess the feasibility of restarting and strengthening the school feeding program using emergency food solutions. And as a part of the work with the World Food Program, we're working with the Ministry of Agriculture to look at how we can expand the number of school farms and greenhouses and how we can make those more resilient going forward. Because we are not just thinking about the physical structure, we're also looking at nutrition. And we feel that as we build in resilience, it's important that our school farms and greenhouses are also resilient. And so I thank the World Food Program for their support in that. In terms of hard educational resources, over 9,542 pieces of furniture have been procured by the ministry and are being delivered to outfit the newly repaired and reopened classrooms. Mr. President, in some schools, after the hurricane, there was so much damage to the furniture. For example, there was mold on some of the pieces of furniture, and we had to throw those out. We can't use them again. And so we've had to procure some additional furniture, and schools have been sending in their requests. And so 125 schools have benefited from these deliveries, and I'm happy that I was able to witness one of these deliveries when I visited a Kampong primary a few weeks ago. I saw the relief and renewed confidence it brought to the staff and students firsthand. I know the impact of these deliveries. Harry Watch Primary in Manchester, Top Hill Primary in St. Elizabeth, Mile Gully Primary in Manchester, Alderton Primary and Infant in St. Anne, St. Christopher School for the Deaf in St. Anne, Hague Primary in Trelawney, Herbert Morrison Technical High School in St. James, Howard Cook Primary in St. James, and K Valley Primary in Hanover are examples of schools that have benefited. Anyone who asks, they get it. Minister Wheatley and the team at the Office of the Prime Minister have also been providing hundreds of STEAM toys to schools in the West. Over 1,400 toys were handed over during Christmas and into the new year. And this has truly been an all-of-government effort, Mr. President. The OPM is supporting play-based learning, creativity, problem-solving, and early exposure to science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics, even as communities recover. And we feel, Mr. President, that it's important, and we've been emphasizing play as a part of dealing with the psychosocial trauma for the children. But in order for us to deal with that trauma, it's nice to have dollies, but it's even better to have science toys. And so this partnership with OPM, we very much welcome, and the children are very happy to receive it. Mr. President, the NWC and JPS have also been working with us to prioritize schools for utility restoration. Each week, the JPS does a meeting with the ministry and team, and through those meetings, the JPS has been able to identify the schools on the path and the route that they are now restoring and have prioritized our schools. And so I thank the JPS, and I also thank the NWC for all of that work that they have done. Our schools cannot open without water especially, and electricity also assists us tremendously. Mr. President, I'm most proud of our learning kits, and those are outside, and I really ask everybody to look at what's out there. So you have workbooks like this, Mr. President. Graphic artists and copywriters from across the ministry and our agencies work night and day to develop these amazing learning kits. And we want to thank them. It's been hard because our children are not in school. And so we've had to be able to, while they were out, give them work that they could do. But now that they're back, it's not perfect. All schools are operational, but not all of them have been repaired. And so some schools are on a shift system. You have students coming in some days and not others. And so these learning kits are absolutely important for them to take home, and you'll see in them sections for the parents, work that they can do on their own so that learning doesn't stop, even if they are not at school on a particular day. And so as of today, Mr. President, 4,500 modified curriculum guides, approximately 34,000 literacy and numeracy preparatory material, and over 43,000 learning workbooks are being distributed to students and teachers. We're targeting key transition years and examination cohorts so that students can consolidate foundational skills and stay on track despite the disruption. In terms of grants, Mr. President, I would have noted in my last statement that the government had approved cleanup grants to our public institutions. So in addition to physical resources, $616 million was made available to public schools through the Rapid Resumption Grant. The grant facility continues to provide upfront cleanup support, ranging from $300,000 to $1 million based on the severity of the impact. You need the school to not have debris on it. Even if it's not fully fixed and children are coming to school, we cannot have debris there. And so we've used those funds, given them to the schools, and the schools use it to clear the debris, and they can also use it for sanitation, restoration of utilities, and other essential amenities that they may need. Damage assessments, Mr. President, were also conducted across affected, privately operated early childhood institutions, and this is very important, and also our independent schools. Unsurprisingly, data revealed a wide variation in estimated damage costs, ranging from minor cleanup needs to severe structural damage. 335 schools, that's 318 early childhood institutions and 17 independent private schools have been impacted based on the preliminary assessment of the Early Childhood Commission and the Ministry of Education. So the breakdown thus far, we have 122 severe, 115 moderate, and 81 schools with mild damage. And if you put that in terms of people, that's 24,143 children and 2,313 staff members that have been affected in our early childhood institutions. Mr. President, we cannot allow our early childhood institutions to operate in a substandard state. Neuroscience and developmental studies are clear. The early years are when the brain is most adaptable. Our institutions are therefore an important pillar of that early development during these critical years. And so when we looked at the data that was there, it became clear, Mr. President, that despite the fact that these are not public institutions, that support should be provided to them for cleanup and minor remedial work. So, Mr. President, based on a situation analysis of that sector, I am very pleased to announce an extension of the Rapid Resumption Grant to early childhood institutions and independent schools that have already reported to the Early Childhood Commission and the Ministry of Education. This is not something that's usually done, Mr. President, because these are private institutions. But given the fact that we've all agreed that the early years are so important, even though they are not public institutions, it is important that we support them as best as possible. And so, Mr. President, cleanup grants will be provided to these institutions based on the severity of impact. And of course, we can work through with them if we may need to give more. We will be going from 80,000 to 120,000 per institution to help them with cleanup. And based on preliminary assessments, we are expected to disburse approximately 31 million in grants in the first tranche, and additional funding can be made available to early childhood institutions should the need expand. And these grants, these grants are in addition to credit facilities that are now being offered through the Development Bank of Jamaica. And the Independent Schools Association is working with the DBJ for those private institutions so that they can be able to move that forward. Reconstruction of schools. Mr. President, the reconstruction of our schools demands that we move with speed and urgency. Every day a classroom is out of service is a day of learning that cannot be improved. Among our priority 1 schools, and those are the most severely damaged, work is actively underway at 56 schools. Contractors are mobilizing to commence works at another 98 schools. The remaining schools are at varying stages of the procurement process. And Mr. President, I want to thank and commend the team at NET led by Mrs. Garty and also Carrie Brown, who is in the ministry. They've been working really hard to mobilize these contractors so that they can get to work. Mr. President, between Minister Crawford, Senator Morgan, and myself, we have visited many of the impacted schools. He's very important to the ministry. I choose schools. Mr. President, I choose schools that are rural and as much as possible are not popular institutions. So I try not to go to the name brand schools, and I know NET knows that. When I ask them first list of schools, they'll say, Minister don't want any that is popular. So we're trying to go to those who really need the assistance and to see what's happening there, Mr. President. And what we have found, name brand, what we have found was extraordinary. You would see a school without a roof in the before photos, but when you visit, you see a new roof. Yes. There was a specific case. There was a specific case, Mr. President, that I found quite memorable. There's a small school in the interior of Westmoreland called Carmel Primary and Infant, and the journey there was something. I remember the team saying it's just 2 minutes away, and 20 minutes later, I was not there. But, and I will note, before Senator Brown asked me, I did invite the MP, Dr. Dayton Campbell, to come with me, but he was not able to join me. All right? So, I did do it. But when you get to Carmel Primary, I found it very jarring, and you would too. You have this beautiful church up on a hill, but the church is in ruins. You can see it right there on the video. That church, beautiful church, destroyed. But then right next door, you see Carmel Primary School, repaired, ready, opened, students in class, happy, engaged, and most importantly, learning. I want to use this opportunity, Mr. President, to place on parliamentary record my sincere appreciation to our contractors and partners on the ground. Yes. I visited schools both before and after the Christmas break, and I saw firsthand teams working steadily and with purpose. In several locations, work continued through the holidays, including on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, so that classrooms, sanitation facilities, roofing, electrical systems, and other critical infrastructure could be ready for the start of our new term. My appreciation also extends to our suppliers. Mr. President, you know that during the Christmas, a lot of our suppliers, especially of steel and other building equipment that we need, they go on break. And I was able to call some of these suppliers, and they agreed to stay open during the Christmas so that contractors could get supplies. And so, Mr. President, that is what national service looks like in real time. Where we are today is the result of an all-of-Jamaica effort. Public servants, school leaders, contractors, suppliers, communities, and partners are all pulling in the same direction to put students back in safe, functional learning spaces as quickly as possible. At the same time, as I said in my last statement, we're not simply rebuilding, we're building much stronger. Based on initial feedback from the World Bank, our infrastructure standards are being further strengthened to improve quality, durability, and resilience in the face of future shocks. The donor community and their generous contributions are also very appreciated, Mr. President. We have several donors working with the National Education Trust as we speak. 2 of them have joined us today, Sandals Foundation and Cheetah. Cheetah, which stands for Connect to Higher Education, Electronic Tools Application, and Help, donated 1,620 PEP books to our schools. Another donor, and thank you, Cheetah. Another donor, the Sandals Foundation, is currently rebuilding King's Primary and Infant and Culloden Primary and Infant in Westmoreland. So thank you to Sandals Foundation for that. And as we thank them, allow me to shamelessly plug and ask for the education system. Marsh Primary, Mayfield Primary and Infant, Hopewell High, Green Pond High, and Little London High are among the primary beneficiaries of the 2026 Sagicor Sigma Run. And so, please sign up and donate to support Senator Brown. You and I, we can run together. Yes. Join me. Yes. Join me in running for the West on February 15, 2026. The target for 2026, wouldn't it be nice? The target for 2026 is $150 million. Let's best that. You can run, you can walk, or you can donate. No matter your choice, this is going to our schools, and I want to thank Sagicor and Sigma for their solidarity with us on this effort. Well, we are not getting any of the funds. Sandals will be repairing the schools. And in fact, since you asked without asking, the Sagicor group is actually starting the work even before the run. So we need to make the money. They're already in the schools starting the work. Another thing, Mr. President, that I would like to discuss is upcoming examinations. Mr. President, examinations were a major early source of anxiety. We recognize that stress trigger quickly and open the lines of dialogue with all education stakeholders. What we have arrived at is an exemplar of consensus. I'll now provide some of that information. So we've changed PEP, Mr. President. The dates have been provided to our senators so you can be a part of telling everybody that it's okay. We're going to be fine. At grade 6, we've made some changes. We are going to have less exams, and the exams will start later. We don't want to put our children in the West at a disadvantage, and that's why we've made these changes. And we believe that they are good changes. We also have made some changes at the grade 5 level, again, making them later and contracting what we're doing. At grade 4, we will only do the literacy and numeracy tests. PEP will operate a little different this sitting. So we've de-emphasized non-essential areas and shifted priority to core competencies. And this is an effort to create a more balanced assessment for all students so as not to introduce any disparities in the results and time available to the students. And Mr. President, I want to thank the Independent Schools Association because a lot of parents were anxious about this, and they had a webinar with the ministry there, and there were over 1,000 people on that call. I tried to go on, Mr. President, but I couldn't get on because they had reached their limit in terms of that. But a lot of parents were on, and in fact, that evening I went to the pharmacy and heard a parent listening in on the call, and so I was able to hear some of the meeting because of that. But we are also working with our parents to ensure that they understand and they know what is happening. Mr. President, even in the midst of managing the fallout of a Category 5 weather system, we must always keep our eyes on how we can move the needle and improve education standards. And starting in the 2026 sitting, we will introduce for the first time literacy and numeracy components to the grade 6 PEP. As we prioritize the foundation of learning, this is an important and timely reform because it strengthens our ability to measure and therefore improve the most important building blocks of learning. And so, Mr. President, a lot of people will look at the language arts test at grade 6 and say, that tells you if a child is literate. It does not. It's not designed as a literacy test. And so for the first time at grade 6, we will be administering a literacy and a numeracy test. And so what we've done in that regard, Mr. President, is to prepare documents, because you know there can be anxiety whenever there's a new thing. And so we've prepared these and have shared it across the system. And these are test preparation guides. And we've done it for numeracy, literacy, all the exams for PEP, so that parents and students and teachers can see what kind of questions we have. And I would implore my colleagues here to look outside at what we have, because it tells you a lot about where we're coming from. In the past, a literacy test was really word recognition. So you would have RAT, and you'd ask someone, do you know what that is? And they'd say yes, and you'd see a series of words, and they'd recognize them. That was what our traditional literacy test was. But now when we do literacy tests, it's a completely different thing. And when you look in this publication, you'll see a few things. It tells you about the test. And this is an example of what a literacy test in modern times look like. You get the board at Norman Manley International Airport, all the flights coming in, the times that they're coming in, whether they're delayed, whether they've arrived, where they're coming from. And then children are asked questions in relation to it and be able to understand what they have seen in that chart and be able to answer questions. Another example was an article on Portmore, and it speaks about when Jamaica gained independence and what Wicon did to build Portmore. It speaks about when each of the areas were built, Bridgeport in 1972. All of that is in here. And then it asks you questions on that to see if you comprehend. That's what our modern day literacy tests are. And so you can't really compare past tests with this test. But at least now we have a benchmark at grade 6. And I can say to you that literacy levels are this, numeracy levels are this, and then we can work over time now to actually improve it. We can't just use the language arts tests or mathematics tests at grade 6, because those are not testing pure literacy and numeracy, but we will make that adjustment this year. We also have made some adjustments, Mr. President, to some of the other exams. We've made our age 4 assessment a little later. The age 4 assessment is important, so we still want to do it because we want to be able to pick up learning challenges early. And so that age 4 test in our early childhood institutions, we still want to do it across the country, and we're going to do that between June 1 and 12, 2026. We've suspended the grade 2 diagnostic test and the grade 9 test, but we'll still do the grade 3 diagnostic test. We also have some changes with City and Guilds in consultation to make it easier for our students. We have the dates remaining the same, but the registration window was extended, and there's also going to be a special sitting in November for those who don't feel that they're ready. And so again, I thank City and Guilds for working with us on this. And results will still come out at the same time as if there was no hurricane. They're also providing free student workbooks in maths and English, and also in customer service level 1. And we also have these hard copies that are available for our students across the system, and we also have digital copies that are available. In terms of CXC, we had consultations locally and with CXC, and we've come up with some options. Option A, and this is for students not impacted by Hurricane Melissa. They'll sit their exams as normal, but with concessions re-SBAs. So SBAs can be given later. There are also an exemption for late fees and deferrals if required. Option B is a modified approach for schools in the affected parishes. And under option B, students will sit paper 1, which is the multiple choice paper, only with their SBA concession. And this will benefit, they'll also benefit from late fee exemptions and deferrals if they need it. But what's interesting, our schools in the West can determine whether they want to use option A or option B. And what makes me happy as minister is to hear my principals say, my students need no concessions. They are doing the full exam because they are ready. And so I thank those principals, and these are our schools in the West, that are saying our students, despite this, we have done the work with them, we're doing work with them after school and on weekends, and they'll be ready to do the full exam. I'm very, very happy, and I am very happy that our teachers have been able to do that. In terms of those who need extensions, there are no late fees that will be charged. And I should also note, Mr. President, that the OEC is giving quite a bit of concession to our students across the system. Mr. President, I now move on to something in relation to skills very quickly. Despite several HART NSTA trust training facilities and administrative offices sustaining extensive damage leading to major disruption of operations and service delivery, the trust must keep fulfilling its mandate. The construction industry is one of our economy's most robust drivers of growth. Before the hurricane, we were pushing up on the limits of our readily available labor pool. As a result of Melissa's impact, demand for trade labor will skyrocket, and we're seeing it already. It's been hard to get the laborers to do the work for our schools. To bring the market into equilibrium, HART will rapidly ramp up training in the trade and construction areas. And the first component of this policy push, Mr. President, has already started to take shape. Last week, I unveiled the Building Resilience and Inspiring Development Through Guided Experience, BRIDGE, initiative at an event at the Jamaica Society for the Blind. The goal of BRIDGE is to create real pathways into work for our young people, while accelerating recovery in communities most severely impacted by Hurricane Melissa. Mr. President, the Bridge Initiative will engage at the start 200 unemployed youth ages 18 to 25 drawn from St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. James, and Hanover. We will equip them with practical, marketable construction skills through supervised on-site work experience. The best way to learn construction is on the site. And so they'll be on active reconstruction projects while we provide them with a stipend of $65,000 per month. So they're learning, we give them the stipend, and they're helping to rebuild the West. Participants will be trained and supported by HEART-certified instructors and will gain hands-on exposure in priority skills areas that are immediately relevant to rebuilding homes, schools, and critical community infrastructure. There will also be an element of international exposure because the participants will benefit from visiting technical expertise and structured partnership with countries including Rwanda, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Guyana. And so we find that to be another added element of our work. Mr. President, I'll quickly just say something on Youth Month, which was in November. Mr. President, we had to revamp our plans for Youth Month 2025 in light of changing circumstances post-Melissa. In direct response to Hurricane Melissa, we pivoted away from the scheduled activities and decided to focus our young people on volunteerism. And so the new theme was Youth Can Rebuild Jamaica. The theme deliberately positioned young people as a central agent in Jamaica's rebuilding effort. We targeted 17 communities in the West, roughly 400 youth volunteers drawn from core youth governance bodies, including the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, the National Youth Council of Jamaica, the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, National Secondary Students Council, and Jamaica Prefects Association. We also had trainees from HEART NSTA participating. Mr. President, it's important that we don't just give our children book knowledge, but we also teach them civic pride. And in emphasizing volunteerism, where they think about others and not just themselves, it's an important component of the work that we have to do. And so I thank them for reaching out and doing this work. We also took the opportunity to conduct a youth impact assessment while we visited affected communities, Mr. President. This led to practical, near real-time intelligence gathered directly from the lived experience of young Jamaicans affected by the hurricane. And this rich trove of data has become policy inputs. It helped us at the ministry to narrow down priority needs, understand the ways in which the storm is disrupting education, training, employment, and household stability, and to capture the concerns and suggestions of young people as we rebuild. I want to commend Minister Crawford for her leadership in coordinating these activities, and I also commend all the volunteers who gave their time, their energy, and their compassion. So what it says, you know, when Jamaica calls, our young people can and do answer. They showed up, not just with words, but with their work, and we should all be very happy. Mr. President, I'm concluding. In closing, let me return to first principles. Education is not merely a sector. We're protecting the future of Jamaica by prioritizing the recovery of our education system. When a storm disrupts schooling, it threatens learning, opportunity, household stability, and national productivity all at once. We must respond strongly and with alacrity once these challenges arise. And that is why this administration's response has been decisive, swift, and coordinated. Mr. President, no child should be left behind, not because of geography, not because of circumstance, and certainly not because of a disaster outside of their control. What we have achieved in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa is a testament to Jamaican capacity when we act with unity and purpose. In 90 days, Mr. President, I say it again, teaching and learning resumed across the system. And I say that, Mr. President, because I've been looking at the research of other schools. I looked at, for example, after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. Those children went back to school 1 year after. We have gone back 90 days after a Category 5 tragedy. Mr. President, we have to put on the record that this administration has done well. So, Mr. President, we mobilized temporary structures. It's not perfect. We have the temporary structures. We've mobilized furniture, learning kits, utility support, psychosocial support, and financial resources to keep schools open and students engaged. We reprioritized exams in line with our stakeholders' positions. Mr. President, the road ahead will require continued discipline and continued partnership. The schools aren't fully rebuilt. We have a lot of work to do during this year. But I thank our teachers, principals, school boards, our regional teams and central technocrats, our contractors and suppliers, our donors and international partners, and the public servants across government who have kept the system moving. Mr. President, I also thank parents and students for their patience and determination. Jamaica did not choose this storm, but we're choosing our response. And our response is to rebuild stronger, recover faster, and protect learning as a national priority. Immanuel Kant once said that it is through education that all good in the world arises. And colleagues, I would like to add our flavor to that quote. Mr. President, it is through education that Jamaica's best days will be achieved. And this administration is committed to that. Mr. President, may it please you.
Thank you, Minister Morris Dixon. Senator Tame, 15 minutes with your presentation, please. 15. Thank you, Senator Tame.
Good morning, colleagues. And Happy New Year as well. I am, Mr. President, especially pleased to hear that all schools have resumed teaching and learning, and I want to congratulate all the initiatives that have been taken to ensure that this has happened, including on our side, Mr. Damian Crawford's initiative in St. Catherine for students from the rural area to come in and for families to adopt families to allow children to go to school. I want to commend teachers who also take individual initiatives to ensure that their children are learning, even while teachers themselves have suffered in this period. And I reiterate, as I did the last time, I would like to hear from the Minister what special initiatives are being made to ensure that teachers' well-being is attended to in the post-Melissa recovery period. While I am happy about the return to the classroom, I am also especially interested in not just the return, but also what is the quality of return. In that regard, I would want to hear more about what exactly it looks like for children to be in school at this time. When should we expect that they have roofs over their heads, that they have water, that they have electricity, and that the conditions are more ideal? And in addition to that, what exactly do the conditions look like on the ground? We have heard that some schools are in rotational form, and it begs the question, what is it that is driving the rotation, and what are the specific needs of those schools at this time? I'm also concerned with the quality of education in general. We did not just emerge upon crises in education in Melissa. We have long-standing concerns about the quality of education, including as it relates to literacy in our population. And I note the Minister's emphasis on testing at grade 6, or introducing testing at grade 6 for literacy. In our system, we have learned our children learn to read up to grade 3, and then they read to learn thereafter. Thereafter, starting at grade 4, they are in constant testing environments, and there is tremendous emphasis on testing, which in my mind questions whether the testing is not a substitute for actual education. In that regard, I raise questions about what it is that is intended to be achieved when a test is introduced for literacy at grade 6, when early childhood learning is a time at which students' literacy should most be impressed upon them, especially in an environment such as this, where language differences exist, where we are operating in a two-language system, and where awareness of that language is critical to the prospects for improving literacy. Is the expectation that it is at the secondary level that the children will be catching up and improving their reading and comprehension at that stage? Certainly, we all know that the secondary school system is meant to prepare students for the world of work, and if they are spending those years catching up, it begs questions about what is the quality of education at the primary level. In addition to this, I am concerned about what we are learning from the data that the ministry is receiving about how our students as well as our teachers have experienced Melissa and its aftermath. At the last sitting where the minister gave us an update, I recommended a collaboration with the Ministry of Culture that would deal with the questions of trauma and put in place a national program of repair incorporating the arts and measures like storytelling and such. You have reiterated today that the arts is deployed in the psychosocial therapy that is being conducted within the schools, and therefore I would like to know, or for you to advise us, what are we learning about the mental health of our children and our teachers, and how exactly are we helping them to recover in that sense? We are all concerned with where education is going, and Melissa has certainly put a spoke in the experiences of schools and of rural communities in particular, but I would hope that in this process we are also beginning to focus on what is needed within our education system. I see here where there is an emphasis or a change in the emphasis on what will be examined in the PEP examinations, where you are saying that non-essentials are going to be removed and that core is now being centered. What exactly are these non-essentials? Why were they included in the first place? And what does it mean that we can now focus on core? We would like to know what is core, what is expected from this attention to core, what does it mean in the bigger picture of the quality of education that is being offered in Jamaica. In the future sessions of the Senate, I expect that we will be having debates about what the quality of education is, what education should look like, what is the ethos of education in the society, and how we imagine that we will use the education to build the kind of society that we would all want to live in, including values like respect for each other, respect for our cultural background, our history, and how we can create new knowledges to make us a society that is ready for climate disaster, ready for innovation, ready for creating a Jamaica where people actually want to live. Thank you.
You had some specific questions, Senator Tim, that Minister, you want to respond to them now, or you're going to wait? Okay, thank you very much. Senator Anderson, you are in your seat, or you are?
I am not. I sought permission earlier.
Okay, good.
But I've moved again, so should I seek permission again?
You don't need it again. You have my permission.
All right. All right.
Thank you, Senator Tim. Senator Anderson.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, House Leader. Minister, thank you so much for such a comprehensive report. It gave us good insight.
Longer than Aubyn by 10.
I had 3 questions. I note you spoke about World Food Program and them helping to assess to restart the school feeding program. I wondered if there was a timeline for them to be ceasing their services and to find out if the program that will be restarted through school feeding will also incorporate families, because I'm assuming that not all the families immediately will be returned to normalcy. The Bridge Initiative, I note you named a definite number of youth, 200 to start. I wondered how they were selected. They have not been well. My request is that it's in a non-partisan way, and that people who actually need it, and that representatives across the aisle also get to suggest names for people to join. And then the last thing I want. I wonder why you're getting help, Minister. Minister, why somebody on your side feel that they have to help you? Tell them not to help you. You can manage by yourself.
Senator Anderson, just stick to your script. You're good.
All right. And then lastly, Minister, I know that Senator Thames spoke about the assessment for teachers, but I really want to put the question back on record, because I know that several of our teachers are actually suffering. Just now I got a message on my phone from a teacher in Hanover who actually lives on the school property, and the flat, the roof is gone, but she's been told to put the roof back on and school starts back next week for her. So, I really don't know how we're helping the teachers themselves, and I'd like to really hear what the plan is for assessing and determining how best the state can help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Brown. Senator Brown.
Thank you, President. I was wondering why Senator Morgan...
I never heard anything, though your ears are very good.
I know you don't, and that's because I'm hearing. I'm just wondering why he's...
It's all right, you go on. You ask your question, man. You're good to go.
Yeah. Minister, I want to join you in thanking UNICEF and the other partners. I note UNICEF is distributing around 300 learning kits, and that is to be in short order. That hasn't been done yet, but they are providing it. Could you indicate to us whether or not, what's the population in which these 300 kits are going to go? Is it the early childhood education, 24,000? Says 3 into 24,000. 300 into 300. All right, you have to be there. People understand. Into 24,000, or is it into the 152,000 total? We also want to know whether or not the government is invested, if you see the value of these kits, if you are investing in acquiring from the source that UNICEF has acquired sufficient kits to fill out the gap, large gap that is left when we get this 300 from UNICEF. I also want to ask the Minister whether that bold initiative by a Member of Parliament, former Senate colleague of ours, Damian Crawford, to pull people from the affected areas into St. Catherine, working with the church and other civic-minded people, whether that's an initiative that the ministry, your ministry, and is he finished? Does the gas run out of you? Yeah. So, yeah, as the gas run out of you. So the question, Minister, is whether or not you personally and the government endorse that initiative of MP Crawford, Damian Crawford that is, and whether or not that's an initiative that you believe your ministry could urge others to take up. And in that said light, the Adopt a Family approach adopted by MP Dayton Campbell in Eastern Westmoreland, whether or not that's an approach which the ministry would recommend across other affected constituencies, so that our children, who many of whom are still without roof, can find some comfort where it is possible for others in a better situation to accommodate them. And with that, I really want to thank you and beg you not to treat St. Morgan in the way Manchester United treat Amarin. May I please you? You really want to know?
Senator Brown, you know, I was so distracted, I thought you had at least another half hour. Anybody else to say, ask any? Minister, you want to respond there? One minute, Minister. 1 minute, please.
Mr. President.
Yes. You have a question to ask?
Yes, for the Minister. Minister, in keeping with the government's commitment to better cater to the education of our nation's children by assisting with transportation to school via the rural bus system, I note the resumption of this important service and the ministry's appeal to the parents to ensure that they sign up their children or ward to the JUTC's card, since the service is intended to be cashless. And my question is this: can you give us an update on the general state of response on the part of stakeholders in terms of take-up and ongoing efforts by the ministry to impress upon parents and guardians the importance of signing up and benefiting from this cheaper and safer mode of transportation for our children to and from school? That is the question, Minister. Thank you, Mr. President.
What an insightful question, Senator Tavares, Vincent. Minister, you know that, Senator Brown, you know that he refers to you as his godfather for some inexplicable reason, you know. Yeah, go ahead.
Not, well, you, my nephew.
Senator Ferguson, you wanted to say something after?
You want to, you? I'll go ahead.
They never expected you, so you didn't get the extension on your microphone. Oh, they have it here.
That's fine, Mr.
You're good.
Thank you, Mr. President. Minister, very comprehensive report. And I want to join my colleague in commending the ministry for the fact that, you know, teaching and learning is happening in all schools. So a lot has been said about the reopening of schools, but I wondered, Minister, is there any data available re-attendance at schools in the post-Melissa period, and how that compares to what the baseline would have been prior to Melissa? The second question is, naturally I'm anticipating that there's a difference in attendance, right, particularly in the most affected parishes. What are the specific initiatives that the ministry is pursuing in relation to improving attendance numbers, and what kind of targets have been set, re-attendance, and over what time? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ferguson. Senator Brown? Okay, thank you. Minister?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues, for your questions. I couldn't put everything in the presentation. I wanted to put more, but because of time, I didn't get to. But I really do appreciate your questions. There was a question about support for teachers and what we're doing there. Actually, one of the first things I did when the government started having conversations around reconstruction grants and recovery grants across the system. In my monthly meeting with the JTA, I had asked the JTA to provide their list of teachers that had been affected so that we could prioritize them through the grants that would be provided. We also had, we have an NHT initiative for those who all our teachers are NHT contributors, so all of them would qualify for this, where there were grants available from the NHT to all of their contributors to be able to rebuild. And so we had a special session with the NHT explaining that process. And so we're prioritizing our teachers as a part of the grants that we're giving in government, and also we are prioritizing them vis-a-vis the programs of assistance that are there in the NHT. We recognize a lot of teachers, and when I go to the schools and I talk to the teachers, they'll tell me, I'm here, but my house is destroyed. They are doing a tremendous job. I mean, the kind of strength that our teachers are displaying, they're sitting in front of our students, comforting them when they know at home it's really a terrible situation that they're in, but they're still there taking care of our children. Our teachers have done fantastic, and it is because of that that we are prioritizing them as a part of the support that we are providing from the government of Jamaica. In terms of the quality of learning, that question is one that I also have. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect, especially after trauma. And so a lot of emphasis has been placed on trauma and actually being able to treat with the trauma that has been experienced by our teachers and by our students. So on that question, and I know there are some questions that dealt there, so we have a comprehensive program of psychosocial support across the ministry. And some of it is virtual, and some of it is face-to-face. And so our guidance counseling team has been supported by 36 private clinicians across the island. So we have a program in the ministry where we pay private psychologists and psychiatrists. And so they've been helping us to deliver the psychosocial support. And I know there's someone here, and if you give me a chance, I'll give you the name of someone who is here and visiting. And I'll give you that soon. And it's Maya Yairi, who is here from Israel, and she's here with her group. And she's been doing some of the psychosocial work in addition to these. So we have our guidance counselors, we have our local Jamaican psychologists and psychiatrists, we even have some counselors from churches that have been deployed across the system, and then we have international partners like Early Starters that's been working with us. And so in total, the total I have is 2,086 psychosocial sessions have been facilitated across the system, and we've reached 167 regional staff members, over 4,000 teachers, and over 50,000 students have been reached in these sessions. That's a lot of people that have been reached. We've also made it a priority to also include the parents, because sometimes with trauma, when you're hit with trauma, your children are going through the trauma, you're going through the trauma, it can be overwhelming. And so we've included parents, and to date we've had over 9,700 parents that have taken advantage of this support. And so, as I said, we had the team in the ministry, our guidance counselors and the counselors, but we also got quite a bit of help from the University Hospital of the West Indies. They sent out their teams that are experts in psychiatrics. And then we had UNICEF also doing some of the support. We had donors like Children First as a part of that team, and also the Ministry of Health and Wellness. They have a team of counselors that have been deployed with us. And so a lot of work is going into psychosocial. Last week, I was told that there was a particular school in Westmoreland that had indicated that they need more support. Wherever we hear that, we then just set up a psychosocial session. We ask them what they want. And I've always said to the teachers, in the ministry, we have an idea of what's needed, but you also have to tell us what we need, which is why I'm always happy. I don't feel bad when a school says we need more help, even though we've given help. It's good that they've said it and that they feel safe to say it. And what we do is we provide it the way that they want to receive it, not the way that the ministry wants to deliver it, but how they want it received. In terms of, again, with quality of learning, there was a question about water and electricity. For some of our schools, water rests on electricity. So we're not able to get water back if electricity isn't restored. And that's why the loan to the JPS was so important, because we would not have been able to get electricity restored. When I see electricity restored to some of our water facilities in Westmoreland, really rural areas, it is because of that loan and those teams that have come in. So that was a good thing on our part. And so we expect that by early February, we would have restored electricity to all of the areas that can receive. Because remember, there are some communities where the houses are destroyed. You can't deliver electricity there. But what we've been doing is ensuring that the schools are ready to receive. Even if the rest of the community isn't fully ready to receive electricity, that the schools are ready. And so our schools fall into the timelines that have been given by JPS, which is in February to have electricity restored. On the rotational issue, it's not the best. I want rotations ended as quickly as possible. What we have in terms of different schools, we have different levels of damage. Some schools, you can fix it quickly. Others, it takes long. So our estimate is, for some schools, it's 6 months of work. And we have to work around the children at school. We can't not do the work, and we can't not have them at school. So in some instances, it's slower, because we have to do the work at night and on weekends. In other instances, too, we have to be doing it better. So not putting on the zinc back, but slabbing the roof. Those things take a little bit longer. And so some schools up to 6 months, some 18 months, because some schools is almost like a total rebuild. But what we've been doing is, where a school is repaired, and they had tents, for example, were in terms of and the literacy timing at grade 6. We already have a grade 4 literacy test. And what we wanted was, upon leaving primary school, to know where we were. So we know where they are at grade 4. But we also need to know where they're at grade 6. And so I never had a test that told me where the children were in terms of literacy and numeracy. And that's what we're trying to address. Because I've seen many presentations where people take the language arts paper and say, oh, look, those who got mastery, that means that they are literate. And those who didn't, it means they're not literate. It doesn't mean that. The language arts test is testing knowledge of the curriculum, not literacy and numeracy. And so this is something that has been discussed for some time, and we're finally making it happen. There's a question about the mental health of our teachers and students, and that is a concerning thing. There is a lot of trauma there, and a lot of, you're seeing the signs of it, and not all of it comes to the fore right away. Sometimes it takes months for that trauma to materialize and to show. And so this work we're doing with the psychosocial work is not a one-off. It has to be done throughout the entire academic year and probably going forward. And so we're very aware of that. And so our systems that we have now with the psychosocial support, those continue. And even in terms of our expert that's visiting with us, she's been training the teachers. We've been doing a lot of training of teachers so that they can see the issues and the guidance counselors and also know how to respond and then to be able to refer on. There was expressive arts therapy is very important as a part of this. Dance and music is actually an articulated element of the psychosocial support. Our children love to sing and dance. And so the cultural dimension is actually one of the best ways for us to treat with psychosocial trauma. And so that is very much integrated, and there's actually or expressive arts therapy program which we have, and we have it really documented in terms of how it works in our schools. Looking at the next question, ethos of education, and a debate around that. That's true. We need to look at what is education, what are we teaching our children, what does it mean? And so that will come. I will be coming later this year with amendments to the Education Act and the education regulations. And so we'll be able to have some of that debate going forward. And those needed to be amended a long time ago, but I'll come in pieces in terms of the amendments, and we'll have a chance to discuss that there. But in terms of who we want our people to be, in my presentation I would have talked about volunteerism, which is important, having them feel that there's something bigger than them, that this Jamaica project that we have includes them, is really important. And that's why in 2023, under Minister Favour Williams, we reintroduced civics into the schools. So civics is taught in schools now, and it's a priority because we understand that they have to have that sense of self and understand what it means to be a Jamaican and what it means to be more than just about your personal goals. And so civics is being taught, and that's one of the ways to address where my Senate colleague had started the conversation on. In terms of the World Food Program, they've been a partner for a long time. And you would know that for the families, they've been giving grants to the families. So as they have ramped down some of the operations at the shelters, and they were using a lot of schools for those operations, they have moved to grants. So I know in December or early January, there were people who got text messages and were thinking it was a scam. It was not. They were getting direct cash grants from the World Food Program in conjunction with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security to support those families. And so the mission that's here, they're actually in the field right now, they are looking at other options. They're trying to see how it's working, what's the nutrition like for children in the area, and they've told me next week Friday they'll have their report ready in terms of their recommendations on the way forward. And so we'll be moving with them in many directions. We're looking at, in terms of school feeding, how we can expand some of what Nutrition Products Limited does to support those schools who don't have their canteen operational. They're also giving us food. Maybe we should bring it to the Senate, Dana. They have some new solutions that are used globally. Obviously, we're not going to give our children food that we don't want to eat. And so we've been testing it in the ministry to see the extent to which we are okay with it. And if we're okay, maybe the children will be okay. But they're also testing with the children also. In terms of the bridge program, which is very important, we need laborers in the West to help to repair. And we have a lot of young people who are unemployed. So bringing them in is important. And the way we usually do things with HEART programs is we have the MPs recommending students in the area to us. And so we'll continue to use that program. So the MPs will be the ones that will be working with us on that. In terms of the UNICEF kits, they're great, they're wonderful, and you should look at them outside again. But I should note that UNICEF supplements what we have. And in my presentation, I would have spoken about the kits that we in the ministry created and shared. And I had one here, which is this. So we have a stack. So UNICEF's own are in the box and outside. But we have a whole stash of books. So when we go outside, you and I are going to go together. And you're going to see all of them. And let me show you some other ones, since you give me time to show and tell. All right, look at this. Literacy is important, and that's been one of my priorities. And I said to the PS, last year I got a stash of books because one of our priorities was giving every primary school child in Jamaica their own set of books. Because the bookshops tell me that the parents come, they buy the books on the list, but they don't buy any reading books for the children. And so a priority was having every child from grade 1 to grade 3 having a stack of books that they could read. And I got them. I took them home the weekend and I read them. And they were nice, but they were wordy. So they were nice for me. But I have children who don't like to read. And what they like are graphic novels. And so I said to the PS, we need graphic novels, especially for the boys. And some of the storylines felt girly. And so I said we needed things that were better for the boys. And so here you have graphic novels for the boys that have been created in the ministry with Jamaicans. Nothing girly in here. And you notice it's about football, we include sports. Anyway, but it is, and in there too, it's not just the boys that are playing sports, it's girls too. Because remember, anything a boy can do, a girl can do. And so, but it does help, almost. But it does help children who don't want the traditional whole heap of words on a paper. And so we thank the media services team across the ministry for being responsive like this and understanding that in order to reach our children, we have to do different things. I don't think they're allowed to clap in the gallery. But I appreciate your clapping. And so we have a kit for every student in the West, Senator Brown. And so what UNICEF does supplements what we have in the ministry. In terms of host schools, and you mentioned MP Crawford and his initiative. And I want to congratulate MP Crawford for following the ministry's directive. I really want to congratulate him because the ministry had announced a host school model. And we actually had it defined, well defined, because you had to make sure that the schools understood their role, that they had other support. And so I should note, Senator Brown, that we have 680 students in host schools across the country. And so we have many schools that have been a part of this program. We have schools like even Campion College. We have schools like Alpha, like Wolmer's. I don't know if Casey has, I should ask if Casey is also on the list. And so there are many schools. And so I applaud MP Crawford for also being a part of the ministry's direction in terms of host schools. It's been tremendously helpful for many of our children to be able to go to these schools. I also have a question on attendance at schools. And that's a good one, and it is something that we collect data each week on attendance, and attendance is down. And this is one of the things we learned from COVID. So when I was out there saying that we need to get the children back in school as quickly as possible, and when I'm saying we need to open, even if it's on a rotational basis, it's because the data shows us that the longer they're out, is the higher the likelihood that they will not return. And so what we've been doing is taking the attendance, and each week it goes up. But we have to be deliberate. So our guidance counselors have to be going out into the communities to find the children So when I go to the schools, the guidance counselors, and I have a conversation around how many children are missing, how many have you been able to reach, and they'll tell you the numbers. They always come with their numbers, and we talk about what is happening with our children. It's especially acute with our teenage boys. And what happens is that they try to go and help their families, and their families, obviously their homes have been destroyed, and they want to help. And so school for them is not important right now. And so what we've been doing is going into the communities, using the churches, our guidance counselors, talking to the families, reiterating the importance of school and coming to school. And so that is one where we're tracking the numbers. I will, in my next presentation, be giving you the numbers to show you where it is. But it is going to be down. It's something that historically we have seen, and that is why anytime there's a disaster, we're going to have to move quickly to bring the children back, because the longer they're out, the more of a problem there is. And the other question I got was on the rural school bus system. And the rural school bus system has been working. I know there was some opposition to it, but now I think our children have embraced it, our parents have embraced it. It is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece of policy. It's a great piece of policy, and our students love it, and it has helped their parents. But on February 1, you now need your card to go on the school bus. Now let me tell you what the card does. When you swipe the card, the parent gets a text message that says, Johnny or little Dana went on the bus at this time. When they come off the bus, they swipe it again, and the parent gets another message that they arrived, they came off the bus at school, not at the town center, like some of them have been going. And so this is actually something very good, so that our parents know where our children are. And so February 1, we're saying that the free passage on the bus must come with that card. And so what we've been doing is going across the country. We have our guidance counselors working with our safety branch of the ministry. We've been going around the schools. We have 280 tablets that have been donated by the e-learning Jamaica. That's why we don't have any tablets, Minister Hill. And they've been going around to register our children across the country so that they can get their cards in time for February 1. So I say to parents listening that you need to go and register your children so they can come on the bus free of charge. And then we'll move to the $50 thereafter, which is $50 per leg. And remember, for many children, it's much more than that they're paying on these taxis. And so that is an important component going forward. And so in terms of, I'm trying to get you the numbers that you had asked for in terms of those who have signed up. It's over 7,000 students have signed up so far. And we know there'll be an avalanche of sign-ups next week as we get closer to the February 1 deadline. I'm also going to look at attendance, which had been asked about. In Region 2, we're at 80% attendance. In Region 3, we're at 82% attendance. In Region 4, 72% attendance. Now, those numbers are not where we want it to be. But guess what? We have the numbers. And that's important because it means that we're tracking it. If we don't measure it, we're not really doing anything towards it. And so each week, we're tracking these numbers, ensuring that they're going up, working with our guidance counselors as they go out into the communities. And so, Mr. President, I think I've answered all of the questions that had been asked, and I thank my colleagues for your attention to this and for your support too, going forward.
Yes, Senator Brown.
Follow up to the questions, to the answers. Minister, of all the buses rural school buses that were promised. I think we were promised 100 and odd. Of all of them now being received and are in operations. I think there are 60 odd or something like that that was outstanding. Could you indicate the status of those and what role El Hydro is playing in the cards? And the final follow-up question is that thank you for, I hope I can get this one for Xander, but this is number 1 of 2026. What numbers you expect to be putting out? And this one is for the boys, but in light of the reggae girls, and since girls do play football, and FIFA has been promoting all of us to play the game, all to play the game, you, me, all of us. Is there going to be one in honor of the great Bunny Shaw, and the reggae girls? And is there going to be one for Sunshine Girls or Netball Queens? So I hope that 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 will reflect those, because I believe when you made the point about girly versus boys, you know that there is an issue with, I'm going down there, you know that there's an issue where the international community have been put in a certain direction. And is this part of the Jamaican resistance to that international push?
Minister, you can answer that? Yes. No, I'm not going back down there in the Senator team. Yeah. Senator Brown, I've allowed him, but I'm not going back down there. Senator Tim, is one question you have? No, can't follow up, Mr. Brown. Everybody asks question and get the answer already, you know. Senator Tim, I'm going to lean over backwards to facilitate. No, not necessarily, you know, Senator Brown. Go ahead, Senator Tim.
To extend the gender question, I would like to know if the ministry is taking measures to disrupt the gender rigidity in our social norms. Certainly we know that our current norms lead to violence between men and women, and I would like to know whether any measures are being taken, because you have stated that books are too girly, and that you have replaced the girly books with, I guess, books for boys. And then secondly, I also heard you say that you found that the books that were created were too wordy for children, and I wondered whether the ministry was actually engaging experts on age-appropriate material that feeds into how we might encourage a culture of reading in the society, including bringing parents into the reading or expansion of reading process.
Thank you very much, Senator Tim. You know, I'm not asking you to deal with the question of the word that you use, girly, because it was used within a particular context of trying to identify and encourage teenage boys into the system. I don't want you to go down that road because it is fraught with danger. You answer the second question from Senator Tim.
All right, Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President. In terms of the question on buses in operation, that would really have to go to Minister Vaz. I don't have that information right now. If I get it, I will pass it on to you. As I get it, I pass it on to you. In terms of age-appropriate reading, and the material, we have experts in the ministry that are very well trained in terms of various models, and we also use experts from the university in terms of creating our programs. So when you see a book like that, you have literacy experts that are working on it. So you have the design team, you have a team of educators that are highly educated that are working on it. But that issue of inculcating that love of reading from early in our country is one that we've been paying quite a bit of attention to. And that's why giving students books, you know, that they can use and that's theirs is very important, and starting it very early is really important. And as to what Senator Brown has said, that is an example of one of the first ones that we're going to be doing. But of course, we know that the Reggae Girls have been to the World Cup multiple times and have done us very proud. And I've gotten the chance to see them play. Sometimes I say they've performed better than other teams. But I won't go down that road. But we will have other ones. And even cricketers too. We'll do many variations of it. But there's one more question, Mr. President, that was brought up around violence towards women and how we treat with that. And in terms of our violence prevention programs that are embedded in our programs, we do speak on respect for everyone. And how you cope with conflict is absolutely an important part of the softer skills that we're trying to engender in our schools. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister Hill? Anything? No. Announcements?
Laid on the table of the Senate are the following: the National Housing Trust, Housing Benefits, Special Selection, Juno Crescent Housing Project Order 2025 under the National Housing Trust Act. Annual report of the Bath Fountain Hotel for the year 2021-2022. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Montego Bay Convention Center for the financial year 2021-2022. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Jamaica Promotions Corporation's JAMPRO for the year 2023-2024. Auditor General's Department Annual Report 2025. Auditor General's Department Performance Audit Report, Ensuring Value for Money in Public Health Procurement at the University Hospital of the West Indies. Independent Commission of Investigation, Second Quarterly Report 2025, April to June 2025. Independent Commission of Investigation, Third Quarterly Report 2025, July to September 2025. Integrity Commission's Investigation Report into concerns that Ms. Sashna Fuller, a securities analyst employed to the Financial Services Commission, failed to file her statutory declarations with the Commission for the year 2023, contrary to law. Integrity Commission's Investigation Report into concerns that Ms. Tamika Afflick, a securities analyst employed to the Financial Services Commission, failed to file her statutory declarations with the Commission for the year 2023, contrary to law. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation for the financial year 2017-2018. Report on the appropriation account, head 5,000 recurrent Auditor General's Department for the financial year 2023-2024, and its related ministry paper numbered 1 of 2026, titled Certified Appropriation Accounts, head 5,000, Auditor General's Department for the financial year 2023-2024, and Auditor General's Department Appropriation Account 2023-2024, head 5,000 recurrent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives. Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions, motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to the sitting of the Senate, motions for leave to introduce bills, the presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business. Minister Hill. Sorry, Minister. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, on the 19th day of December 2025, the Trade Standard Incandescent Light Source Prohibition, except under the license, Order 2025, was laid on the table of the House and notice given for its affirmation. So, Mr. President, pursuant to the agreement of the April 19, 2018 among the energy ministers of the Caribbean community to phase out the importation and sale of incandescent light bulbs within the region, and consistent with the obligation of state parties under the Minamata Convention on Mercury, to which Jamaica is a signatory, and further to keeping with the Cabinet Decision number 3121, dated September 19, 2022, Mr. President, this Trade Standard Incandescent Light Sources Prohibition, except under license, Order 2025, the order, is issued under the authority of Section 8, subsection 1, item A, B, and C of the Trade Act. The order provides for the prohibition, except on the license of the import, export, manufacture, distribution, sale, and purchase of standard incandescent light bulbs commonly used for household, commercial, and industrial lighting with effect from April 1, 2026. The order is made pursuant to the Trade Act, the Act, specifically Section 8, subsection 1, item A, B, and C, which empowers the minister to A, prohibit absolutely the importation of exportation of goods or any class or description of good from or to any country. B, prohibit such import or export except under a license granted by the minister. And C, regulate the distribution, purchase, or sale of goods or any class of description of goods. Consequently, Mr. President, the order is being promulgated in keeping with the Section 10, subsection 1, and Section 10, subsection 2 of the Act, and is subject to affirmative resolution of Parliament. The objects of the order are to facilitate the phase out inefficient lighting technologies, support national energy conservation initiatives, align Jamaica's trade regulations with sustainable environmental goals, and enable a controlled and limited use of incandescent light sources where no suitable alternative exists. The order. Clause 1, citation. This clause provides for the short title of the order. Clause 2, interpretation. This clause defines authorized use, which, Mr. President, means incandescent light sources as outlined in the first schedule. License, Mr. President, is to mean a license as granted by the minister under Clause 4 of the order. Standard incandescent light source, Mr. President, means a light source containing a filament that produces light when heated by electrical resistance. Clause 3, prohibition and importation. Mr. President, this clause provides that prohibition on importation of standard incandescent light sources is prohibited except under the authority of a license. Licenses are valid for up to 12 months from the date of issue. The phased prohibition takes effect first, less than 40 lumens watt effective April 1, 2026, and secondly, 40 to 54 lumens watt effective April 1, 2027. Clause 4, Mr. President, deals with the licensing conditions. This clause provides that the minister may grant a license if satisfied that the use falls within the first schedule. Applicant must apply in writing using a form provided in the fourth schedule. Clause 5, Mr. President, deals with restriction on sale. This clause prohibits sale of imported standard incandescent light source if the seller has reason to believe they will be used for unauthorized purposes. Clause 6, Mr. President, deals with offenses and penalties. This clause provides that a person who contravenes Clause 3, unauthorized import, or Clause 5, unauthorized sale, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction before a judge or a parish court to a fine not exceeding Jamaican dollars 2 million or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. Yes, these are the offenses under Clause 6. First schedule, this schedule provides the specific uses for which a license may be granted to import standard incandescent light sources. It provides for A, Mr. President, use in poultry houses limited to housing up to 4,000 birds for the purpose of egg production or raising young birds. And B, Mr. President, other agricultural uses which alternative technologies cannot generate the required infrared heat. C, Mr. President, deals with exceptional cases where the applicant demonstrates to the satisfaction of the minister, after consultation with the minister responsible for energy, that no suitable alternative light technology exists for the intended purpose. The second schedule, Mr. President, this schedule sets out the implementation timeline for the prohibition on imports, provided for, Mr. President, the phase prohibition based on efficient lumens per watt. A, less than 40 lumens per watt, prohibited from April 1, 2026. And B, Mr. President, 40 lumens or more, but less than 55 lumens per watt, prohibited from April 1, 2027. The third schedule, Mr. President, this schedule outlines the specific categories of standard incandescent light sources that are exempt from the prohibition and may be imported without a license. These include, among others, incandescent light sources used in printers and computers, household appliances such as freezers and laboratory and health care equipment. Fourth schedule, Mr. President, and this is the final one. This schedule provides for the application form that must be used when applying for a license to import incandescent light sources. If it pleases you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Scott Motley.
If it pleases you, Mr. President, I think it would be absolutely pellucid that the opposition would be supporting this order. We understand how the technology has improved in many areas, and we understand what incandescent lighting does to our environment. Not only is it that it uses a lot of electricity, and we know the impact of electricity on carbon emissions. But we do know that the LED lighting or other lighting is far more efficient. 90% of the heat which an incandescent bulb generates is just lost, is wasted. So of course we applaud it. We do understand why it is necessary to face it, and that there are circumstances in which there is no substitute, so you have to use it. But generally speaking, we support this amendment which has been made. We believe that it is vital. We think that it will actually help the economy, as it will reduce costs. And you, Minister, have a particular interest in ensuring that medium and small businesses benefit from reduced charges. So without delaying, Mr. President, may I indicate that the opposition supports this order.
Thank you very much. Minister?
I seek affirmation of the order, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, members. The Minister is seeking the motion, the approval of the motion, notice of which was given on the 19th day of December and dealt with today. The Minister is seeking its approval. Those in favor? Against? Thank you, Minister.
Mr. President, earlier the Senate leader indicated that the debate on the Jamaica Promotions Corporation bill would commence today. Further to deliberations with my team, we have decided not to proceed with the debate today of the bill, and we will do it at a later date.
Thank you very much. No, I should say, Minister... No, he's not. No, Minister Hill and Leader Scott Motley. I should have had a word with you before. There are some housekeeping matters that I have to do, and they are not at this time ready. I'm going to request that we rise and have lunch until 2 o'clock. I would just need a what? I'm sorry, we're going to deal with it now. If you just give me 5 minutes and we'll deal with it. And I'm not going to rise. I'm always afraid when you say that, you know, Senator Bro.
Yeah, just as I raised earlier, I have a document with your signature on it that expired on the 31st of December. It has my face on it. And I don't think any of the senators have received a new ID. So I just raised that because... Mr.
Cohen? Yeah. You can respond to Senator Brown. No, you don't have to do it publicly. I'll deal with it afterwards. Minister. No, he's going to talk to you afterwards. Yeah. Minister?
Mr. President, thank you. Mr. President, might I ask for recommittal of bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives and for recommittal of notices of motion given orally?
Members would have heard the request of the Minister. Those in favour? Go ahead, Minister, please. I beg your pardon? Yes. Go ahead, please, Minister. Go ahead, Minister, please respond to bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives.
All right, bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives. So the following is a message from the Speaker of the House of Representatives. To the Honourable Senate, I have the honour to advise the Honourable Senate that on the 20th day of January 2026, the following bills were passed in the House of Representatives without amendment. An Act to amend the Financial Investigations Division Act and an Act to amend the Financial Administration and Audit Act. This message is from the Most Honourable Juliet Holness, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Mr. President, I signify my willingness to take charge of the bills.
A bill shortly entitled the Financial Investigations Division Amendment Act 2026 read a first time, and a bill shortly entitled the Financial Administration and Audit Amendment Act 2026 read a first time.
President, I beg to give notice of second reading of the bills.
Thank you, Minister. Notices of motions given orally.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motions. Whereas subsection 1F of section 41 of the Constitution of Jamaica requires a member of the Senate to vacate his seat if he becomes a party to any contract with the government of Jamaica for or on account of the public service. And whereas Senator Cavan Gale is an industrial relations consultant who may from time to time enter into contracts with the government of Jamaica and its affiliated agencies, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate, pursuant to subsection 1F1 of section 41 of the Constitution of Jamaica, and in recognition of him having disclosed his interests, exempt the said senator from vacating his seat for reasons as aforesaid. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion. Mr. President, I also beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motions. 1, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoints a select committee comprising the following members: Senator Dr. the Honourable Dana Morris Dixon, Senator Shireen Golding, and Senator Donna Scott Motley, to sit jointly with a similar committee as appointed by the House of Representatives to consider and report its findings to this Honourable Senate on an act to facilitate the implementation of child diversion in the criminal justice system and for connected matters. Secondly, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoints a select committee comprising the following members: Senator Cavan Gale, Senator Rosemary Bennett Cooper, Senator Marlon Morgan, Senator Alan Bernard, to sit jointly with, sorry, are we missing a member from your side on this? To sit jointly with a similar committee as appointed by the House of Representatives to consider and report its findings to this Honourable Senate on Green Paper number 1 of 2025, the National Policy for Culture, Entertainment and the Creative Economy 2025 to 2035. And thirdly, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoints a select committee comprising the following members: Senator the Honourable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Senator the Honourable Abka Fitz-Henley, Senator Cavan Gale, Senator Rosemary Bennett Cooper, Senator Donna Scott Motley, and Senator Keisha Anderson, to sit jointly with a similar committee as appointed by the House of Representatives to consider and report its findings to this Honourable Senate on the Domestic Violence Act. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of standing orders in order to enable me to take those motions of which I have just given notice. Mr. President, I also beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the following orders be referred to the Regulations Committee of the Senate for consideration and report. 1, the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Industry Cove Manor Housing Development Order 2025 under the National Housing Trust Act, which was laid before the table of the Senate, laid on the table of the Senate on the 21st of November 2025. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Catherine Estate Housing Development Batch 1 Order 2025 under the National Housing Trust Act, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 21st day of November 2025. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Massimut, I'm hoping that's pronounced properly, Flats Housing Development Order 2025 under the National Housing Trust Act, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 21st day of November 2025. And fourthly, the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Juno Crescent Housing Project Order 2025 under the National Housing Trust Act, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 23rd day of January 2026. And I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you very much, Minister. So we return to public business. Minister, there are a number of motions here. Are you suggesting that we take them en bloc? Because I wouldn't have a difficulty with that.
Yes, Mr. President. If I am able to save that, yes, no, because I was looking at the language of the one which required reference to the Regulations Committee, but I do believe they can be taken en bloc. But if you could just give me one moment, Mr. President.
So there's an amendment to one of the motions. So do we need to return to?
We can, I believe,
can do it
on
at public
moving the
business.
motion, we can
Just
add
indicate
it
that.
and then, right.
Okay,
so we
very
won't
much.
take them en bloc then. I will take that one and then we take the others en bloc.
Take that amendment and then take everything
them
en bloc. So
right.
there's an amendment.
Agreed.
Or an addition is the correct phrase.
An addition.
To one of the motions.
Yes.
And would you just indicate what that addition is?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the motion in respect of the consideration and reporting on the Green Paper number 01-2025, the National Policy for Culture, Entertainment and the Creative Economy 2025 to 2035, in respect of which we would add Senator Mazike Thame as a member of that committee to be proposed in the motion of which, in respect of which standing orders have been suspended.
And your request is now to? No, that has been done. No, my request is now that all the motions. Yes, okay. Let me just. I'm going to. Members would have heard the amendment. That is to say, the addition of Senator Thame to the particular committee. Those in favor? Against? Okay, Minister, you can go and put the motions on block now,
Thank you,
please.
Mr. President. Mr. President, having suspended standing orders to allow me to take this, to take these motions, or rather, I'm now moving the motion for suspending the standing orders to allow me to take the motion.
Members would have heard the question. Those in favor? Against? Go ahead, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Standing orders having been suspended, may I ask that the motions of which I have given notice be approved?
Thank you. Members would have heard the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I understand there has been robust discussion and debate this morning. I am so advised. I want to thank colleagues for their kind indulgence in my absence. And thank them for their contribution to national debate and for the engagement on the issues which will inform further debate, and to indicate that there is no intention to do any further business today and ask for adjournment for a date to be fixed.
Thank you very much. Just before we do so, as I think every member would now be aware, I would like to encourage members of the Senate to make every effort to attend the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association post-election seminar, which is to take place next week, Wednesday, January the 23rd, through to Friday, January 30th, from 9 to 4 p.m. each day. This seminar promises to be highly informative and a practical experience, covering key areas such as leadership development, effective engaging in parliamentary procedure, and strengthening collaboration with the Clerks Committee and the wider parliamentary staff to improve efficiency and effectiveness of our work. Now, we are privileged to welcome a distinguished group of presenters from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Parallel Americas, and members from the parliaments of Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, Canada, and as far as the United Kingdom. This will be an excellent opportunity for learning, exchange, and professional growth. And I strongly encourage all members to participate fully, if possible, and it would be very unfortunate if the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, with whom we have a tremendous collaboration, and No, may I put this in ahead. It would be very unfortunate if people, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, were to come and put on this seminar, and very few of us are in attendance. I don't know what the response from the House is, but I can tell you that only one member of the Senate so far has filled out the required form, and that person has 2 E's in the name. So, especially the newer members, I'm beseeching you. We'll come again? 28th to the 30th. That's what I say? Well, rest assured, I read what they give me, you know. So it's the 28th. It says next week Wednesday. Listen up, it's next week Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The Senate is likely to sit on Friday, but you could always, you know, if there's something important for you to attend on that day, you shuffle and make sure we maintain a quorum here. But as I said, it would be unfortunate for these people to be coming from so far, and there's only one member fill out the form. It don't look good. So I'm beseeching you, especially those who are here for the first time, try and make the effort. And if you can't even come for the entire day, come in the morning and spend some time, if at all possible. Any questions on that? Senator Brown.
With us what arrangements would be made for the Friday when, if indeed we are sitting next week, one would imagine members, even if they are first-time members, would want to be present in their sitting of the Senate.
Yes, well, we will be sitting in this chamber. Alternative arrangements will be made for the conference to continue elsewhere on the building. Yes, Senator Brown.
Since I'm not one of the younger ones, but I need to ask on their behalf, will those sessions be treated as a sitting of the Senate?
Yes.
It would be.
I understand what you are saying, and the answer is...
I know you are. You went to JC.
And
therefore the issue is that
the answer is yes.
Be
the answer
a good
is yes.
motivator.
Yes, it will be a good motivator, and
yeah.
I am sure that lunch will also be provided. So turnout, Mr. Yes, so that's it. Thank you very much. Minister?
It's a good question. It is. It's a day, it was almost a day for consensus and collegiality. It has been such a day, and we hope to continue in this spirit. It is not intended to do any further business, Mr. President. Might the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed?
Members would have heard the question. Those in favor? This Honourable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.
yourself a fighting chance. Wear an approved helmet. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
Since 1962, we've proudly charted our course. But did you know Jamaica's head of state is still the British monarch? That means officially our highest constitutional authority is not Jamaican. Becoming a republic is the next step in deepening Jamaica's constitutional sovereignty. It means replacing the British monarch with a Jamaican president as head of state. In 2024, the Republic Bill was tabled in Parliament, a major move in the reform process of the Jamaican Constitution. The process will take place in 3 phases. Right now, we're in phase 1, replacing the monarchy and laying the foundation for a republic. But this change needs your approval through a national referendum. This is not about politics, it's about pride, about a constitution that finally looks and sounds like us. It's about our legacy, our identity, and our future. Join the journey, get informed, ask questions, and when the time comes, let your voice be heard. One